Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We made it to Friday, Sports IQ. I'm Larry Smith. Glad you're with us. We're here coming to you from Atlanta once again, getting ready for tonight's big show on Ion. It is Indiana taking on Washington. Later, it is Las Vegas taking on Phoenix. We'll talk a bit about that here in just a moment. Excited later on this hour to have the great Phil Steele joining us, talk a little college football. We are now just a couple of weeks away from week one, from teams getting ready. Hard to believe that this summer is almost over, but we're excited for all of that. So very, very cool. Let's get to some stories right now. A few things I want to share with you. The NFL, a lot of news happening off the season. Let's start now in Cleveland. Some crazy things. One of the potential players on Thursday, some good news. Running back Quinshon Judkins will not face assault and battery charges in a case. This goes back to last month. Judkins was arrested on a misdemeanor domestic violence and battery charge in Fort Lauderdale back on July 12th. According to the arrest report, the incident happened 5 days before the arrest, but was not reported until that day. So per the arrest report, Judkins, after showing frustration after he read some text messages from his family, allegedly punched the woman with a closed fist in the area of the chin and lip while driving in a vehicle leaving Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Judkins later allegedly also struck her in the left arm and thigh. The woman showed officers photographs displaying some bruising. However, prosecutors declined to pursue charges after reviewing police reports, body-worn camera videos, video surveillance, photos, phone records, and the sworn statement of a woman he allegedly struck. All this according to a memorandum obtained by ESPN. The league said Thursday via a memo that the league has been following developments in the matter, which remains under review. That's a quote. Well, the Browns and their fans will have to wait and see when the former Ohio State star will be able to take the field in Cleveland. And some other Browns news now. Isaiah Bond, the former Texas and Alabama wide receiver who went undrafted after being arrested on an outstanding sexual assault warrant, was not billed and no longer faces criminal charges. This is according to his agent, Damian Butler, telling ESPN's Adam Schefter. Greg Willis, who is the district attorney, said in a quote in a statement, after reviewing the evidence presented, a Collin County grand jury returned a no bill in the sexual assault charge involving Isaiah Bond, meaning no indictment will be issued. This concludes the criminal proceedings. So there you go in Cleveland. By the way, as we talked about, and we'll talk just a bit here as we bring producer Tony and talk about the preseason. There was the oblique injury suffered by Shedeur Sanders, the rookie quarterback, so he will not be starting tomorrow against the Eagles. And so we'll keep that in mind. Again, it was a non-contact injury, by the way, but we'll watch and see what happens there with the rookie as he tries to gain the starting job in week one there in Cleveland. Meanwhile, another quarterback news, the Rams and starting QB Matt Stafford continue to wait on his back issue to see when he'll be able to play. Stafford, 37 years old, has a bulging disc issue in his back. The Rams are hopeful he'll be able to take part in the throwing session tomorrow and then see how he feels in the days afterwards. Stafford threw last Saturday and did not feel well in the days after the session. He has not taken part in a Rams practice this preseason. So, things happening there in LA. Rams take on the Chargers. We'll talk about the Chargers and their quarterback issues coming up here in just a bit. A little baseball for you now. Pretty light getaway day around the major leagues on Thursday. The Tigers showing signs of riding their ship lately after having lost 12 of 13 earlier in the month. Detroit has now reeled off 4 wins in the last 5 games. 4-3 win over Minnesota on Thursday. Riley Green hit a team-best 28th homer to help power the offense. Tariq Skubal pitched 7 innings but did not get the win. Cleveland kept pace in the Central as they downed the Marlins 9-4. Jose Ramirez had 3 hits and scored 3 runs. Gabriel Arias, a pair of RBIs to lead the way for that Cleveland offense. In the AL East, Toronto getting 7+ strong innings from starter Max Scherzer. Vlad Guerrero hit his 20th homer of the season. Toronto gets the 2-1 win over the Cubs north of the border. The Blue Jays now a Major League best 24-12 in interleague play. The Orioles beat the Mariners for the second straight day. This time it was a 5-3 score. Rookie Tomoyuki Sagano earned his 10th victory by working 5 1/3 sharp innings before a lengthy rain delay. Julio Rodriguez homered for Seattle. which has now dropped consecutive games since winning 8 in a row. Seattle now trails the division-leading Houston Astros by a game and a half there in the AL West. The NL East remains status quo as both the Phillies and Mets lost last night. Philadelphia dropping a 3-2 decision to the Nationals. The Mets falling to Atlanta 4-3. At the All-Star break, the Mets were just a half game behind the Phillies in the East and had the second spot secured in the wild card. However, the Mets have now lost 13 of the last 15 games, and their lead over the idle Cincinnati Reds in the race for the final wild card spot has shrunk to just a half game. So that's the story there in baseball. As we head into the weekend, hard to believe again that just how close we're getting for that. I mentioned here at the top that I'm here in Atlanta, coming to you actually from the Buckhead area. If you're familiar, drive by and honk if you say hello. Big game tonight. We've got a big doubleheader tonight, actually. A couple of games that we're working on tonight. Excited about having Indiana hosting Washington, and in game 2, the national game, it is Las Vegas at Phoenix. Now, this Indiana game, again, still no Caitlin Clark. She has played, I think, just 10 games here this season, so it has been leaning on Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, the 2 all-stars. They've kept the fever in this chase right here. They still right now are very much in the playoff hunt, still in the hunt, actually, for home court edge in round 1. Meanwhile, the Washington Mystics coming in 14-18. A lot of big changes here. They shipped all-star Brittany Sykes out to Seattle a couple of weeks ago. Later made another move. Last year star rookie Aaliyah Edwards sent her to Connecticut in exchange for J.C. Sheldon. That move right now has not paid dividends for them so far. They've dropped 3 of 4 games since then, trying to right the ship tonight with their 2-star rookies, Sonia Citron and Kiki Irifin, have just been outstanding. Citron out of Notre Dame, Irifin from USC. They've been phenomenal in their first season here, the WNBA. But again, do they have enough? The Mystics have already equaled last year's win total, but they need to get some more. They've kind of fallen back here with these losses behind Golden State and a surging Las Vegas team. Some other early games. Speaking of Golden State, 17-15, they've already equaled the most wins ever for a WNBA expansion team. It was 17 wins by the Detroit Shock back in 1998. They went 17-13. Of course, now there are more games being played in the league. They're to a 44-game schedule now. But still, the Valkyries, 17-15, try to become the first expansion team to make the WNBA playoffs. They've won 3 straight suddenly, and so now they are going to be playing Chicago tonight. The Sky just 8-4. All kinds of issues there in Chicago. Things have not gone well in year 1 under head coach Tyler Marsh. Sparks are at Dallas. Meanwhile, LA has been red hot lately. They've won, I believe, 9 of the last 11. They're right there in the thick of the playoff chase. They've gotten a leg up on Washington. Dallas, meanwhile, continues to struggle. They did end that losing streak with that 1-point win over Indiana back on Tuesday night. They're now 9-24. Big win there. Paige Beckers again coming through. Looks like she's going to be Rookie of the Year this year. We talked about, again, the Aces and the Mercury tonight. Las Vegas has been in fuego. Winners of 6 straight. And Asia Wilson, last weekend becoming the first ever WNBA player to have 30 points and 20 rebounds in the same game for her. And so now you got to think she's back in the MVP conversation the way she's been playing. 22 points, almost 10 rebounds a game for her. Meanwhile, the Mercury have slipped just a little bit, but still they've got Alyssa Thomas, who's just outstanding, almost averaging a triple-double. She's also in the MVP chat. 16 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists per game for Alyssa Thomas. She's just been fantastic. The other game tonight, the 10 o'clock Eastern time start, that some of you will see if you're watching, is a bit of WNBA history. It'll be the first ever regular season game played outside the U.S. It is Seattle taking on Atlanta. This is at Rogers Arena up in Vancouver. Now, it's going to be a big deal next year because the expansion Toronto Temple began play as one of 2 expansion teams, along with Portland, to open their play in 2026. But a big deal here is, again, the WNBA following the NBA looking to grow their game internationally, and big night again tonight in Vancouver. So lots happening there, no question about that. We will take a quick time out right now, talk a little NFL preseason, what's going on with the Chargers, some concerns there. Also, Chicago. Could this be their year? We'll talk about that. Phil Steele still on the way as well here on the Sports IQ.
Hey, airline travelers, let's say you have a problem and you need to change or cancel an existing airline reservation. What do? Well, Skywatch is a free service that can help anyone with any airline reservation fix it. Whether you want to cancel it, change your dates, or add passengers, we can help fix your airline reservations so you get exactly what you need. We've updated our computer database and now have access to every airline around the globe. So now you can make one phone call regardless of who booked your airline tickets, and we'll change it, cancel it, and fix it for you. We know the insider secrets to fixing reservations that the airlines don't want you to know about. So if you need to cancel, change, or modify an existing airline reservation, call Skywatch right now. It's a free call, so let us fix it for you. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. That's 800-413-7158. Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
We all make more than 35,000 decisions a day. Most are small, but some can be life-changing.
When it comes to taking care of yourself, the most important choices can be hard to make. Like having a tough conversation instead of ignoring a buddy's call.
Or being there for support, not assuming things will just get better. Make the decision to be there. For the veterans in your life, for your community, for yourself. Learn more at BeThereForVeterans.com.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Friday continues here on the Sports IQ. Producer Tony joining us now with some conversation about the week 2 of the preseason. Tony, a couple of things that I found really interesting, and you did as well. One, with the Chargers, Justin Herbert starting at quarterback. He's a veteran who has never started a preseason game. What's going on right now in L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Chargers fan, I got to be really concerned at this point, seeing that Herbert's going to actually start the preseason game. That's something they haven't done in any of the past years. So what that tells me, with everything going on in the Charger world, they lose Rashawn Slater. That is such a devastating blow for that team because he's the left tackle. He's Herbert's blindside protector. He's everything in the run game. And I think they're starting to panic a little bit about what they have at offense. They've had to bring back Keenan Allen because Mike Williams, who was another cast off, who decided to come back and then quit, leaving that wide receiver room a little bare. If you're a Charger fan right now, you're in week 2 of the preseason and you're already in full-blown sweat mode.
Yeah.
You're shaking. The hands are not steady when you're talking about the Chargers. You're just having issues at this point. And so they need something positive to happen in their game this weekend so that they can feel a little better about going into the season.
Yeah, it's funny that when you think about this is a team that, they had the extra game, right? They played in the Hall of Fame game. Trey Lance at quarterback. They looked great in that game against the Lions. And that was just 2 weeks ago. And like you said, now all of a sudden, a little scary, a little strange. So they're going to take on the Rams. That game is going to come up, but tomorrow night, they're at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. Just a fantastic stadium if you get a chance to get out there. Just gorgeous. Another game we were watching, talking about is the Bears and the Bills. This is a Sunday night primetime game. Fox taking advantage of everyone dying for some football. They're up there at Soldier Field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to see the Bears' new look offense with Ben Johnson at the helm and how Caleb Williams looks, because it may only be the first couple of series, but you know that Caleb is probably going to have to face the Bills' first string defense. And they've got a really good pass rush, and they've only helped that pass rush in the offseason. Yeah, Joey Bosa's still not healthy. Of course, when was the last time you can say Joey Bosa was healthy?
Right.
It's been a few years, right?
Right.
So they don't have all the pieces, but they're going to have enough pieces. I want to see how this new system works. I want to see how the Bears' offense looks like. I want to see if they can protect. They spent a ton of money in the offseason trying to improve that offensive line. Can they slow the Bills' pass rush down to give Caleb time to go through his reads, to make plays, to see what he's got on the outside, all of those kind of things? The Bears are really interesting. That division is so tough, but they've made a lot of moves offensively, and bringing in Johnson as the head coach, you want to say you just have a feeling that maybe they're going to be the surprise team this year. It's possible. We'll find out soon, once we hit the regular season, but they kind of given me that vibe of that team that may be that surprise pick that comes out of nowhere and makes a playoff run. I kind of see that as possibility for them.
Well, as a Bear fan, I hope you're right. But boy, it has been just it's been painful. I'll go back to again, teams that kill off their coach. And the decision again that was made back in 2012 when Lovie Smith went 10-6, but missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker, I believe, with Minnesota. The Bears fired him after that. They've had only one double-digit win season since then, and that was in 2018 with Nagy as their coach. I mean, it has just been a comedy of errors. Mark Trestman came in. You thought that Fox came in, the former Broncos coach. He did nothing. It just been losing season after losing season. A couple of playoff appearances, but they haven't had a playoff win since they reached the Super Bowl back in 2006. Going on almost 20 years. I mean, This is almost Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys type stuff.
Exactly. And the interesting thing there is they've had a lot of high draft picks. And they've spent a lot of high draft picks on quarterbacks, and none of them panned out, right? So Caleb Williams, you kind of feel sorry for the kid when he gets drafted. They're going, you're going to the quarterback graveyard. Good luck, kid. Hope it turns out well for you. So we'll see what he's got there. Larry, there's another game I'm looking at that should be interesting is the Ravens and the Cowboys. There's been so much talk in Cowboy land about Micah Parsons. I'm wondering if Micah's not sitting back there going, gee, I really hope Lamar kind of beats up that first string defense, because he'll only probably play a couple of series. But again, if they move the ball at will against the Cowboys, Jerry Jones better hurry up and get that checkbook out and start writing whatever Micah Parsons wants, because the stats are clear. That defense minus Micah Parsons is less than bad. They're just not good, period. That's the end of the story. When they have Micah Parsons, they're a top 5-6 defense in the league. That's how much of a difference maker this guy is. And you've paid other people in Dallas who haven't shown and don't have the statistical measure that has shown that they are the best at their position, but yet you're slow rolling a guy who has proven in a few years that statistically he makes a huge difference to your team. If I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm going, what are we doing at this point?
And that's what I don't get about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones is that they don't, I guess, have vision. If you know Dak Prescott's your guy, lock him up early, right? If you know Micah Parsons is your guy, lock him up early. It behooves you to make these deals in advance because you can take advantage of the salary cap. You can restructure things. It's almost like look, I'm not an NFL GM. I don't know all the intricacies of the salary cap and how it works, whatever. But I know every other team, when they have somebody they want to lock up, they do so in advance, right? That's why Trey Hendrickson was holding out in Cincinnati. That's why Terry McLaurin is holding out in Washington. You have a year left, but you're trying to use that leverage, and it behooves you. We talk about the Chiefs, and I've said before, I thought the Chiefs would go under once they signed Patrick Mahomes to that massive contract, but they did it years in advance, so they could massage it to where he got his money, but it wasn't like all of a sudden this shock to the salary cap. You had to go, you had to cut some players, And look, they didn't get the win last year, but they have kept winning. They're back in the Super Bowl, even with him, and with him even getting even more money because the market changed. But then you go to Dallas and they wait to the last minute. They sign somebody. Now all that money comes due right now. Right. And I don't understand, and I'll never understand how they operate. And it's like you said, it's got to be infuriating for Cowboys fans.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a team that was, up until the mid 90s was perennial, always in the talk of Super Bowl, always in the chat, always in the mix. Even years when they didn't go, you always were feared the Cowboys. Right now, there are a lot of other fan bases that are just laughing at the Cowboys, especially the way they've been the last 20 years. They just chuckle. Yeah, Cowboys, whatever, America's team. Yeah, whatever. You got Dak, you got Jerry Jones. You're not going anywhere. Whatever. Get out of my face. All that kind of talk. Because let's face it, they have not been consistent. They have not been consistent winners. And they've really been a no-show other than one pass in a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers that Cowboy fans still claim he caught, which he didn't. Sorry, Cowboy fans. Hate to tell you. But, that's your one claim to fame in the last 30 years. That's it. You don't have anything else to hang your hat on. Your 10-gallon hat is sitting over there in the closet somewhere because you haven't been able to take it out for 20 years.
Exactly. It is beyond scary. So lots of games going on. Also, of course, Browns and Eagles. Shedeur Sanders looks like he is going to be out with Cleveland after that outstanding debut. Very strong debut. Let's put it that way. Maybe not outstanding, but it was very promising. Browns Eagles tomorrow night. Okay, we've got more to come. Phil Steele on his way next, and we'll get Tony's the rest of his next up on his top 25. That's next.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it. And you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show on this Friday. Hopefully it's a good day for you so far. As we mentioned earlier, we're excited to have on the show our friend Phil Steele. He's a publisher, writer of the Phil Steele publications, Phil Steele magazine. Phil, we were just talking in the break. 31st year you've done this. It's remarkable what a child prodigy you were to do this at start like age. What were you, 10, 11 years old when you started this?
Yeah. I started at 10 and put out the first one. And, the magazine, amazingly, that first magazine we put out was black and white. It was on newsprint and it was about 188 pages. We only covered 85 of the teams back then. Yeah. This year we cover all 136. It's full color, 2 full pages, 360 pages this year.
Wow. I remember that on the newsstands. And the thing is, because it was black and white, it really stood out. I mean, I don't know if that was part of the process or just a thing of just, money wise, this was cheaper, but it's one of those things that as it's all like, wait a minute, this is a little different than all the color of the stuff that was out there.
Yeah, it was definitely because it was cheaper. There's no doubt about that. It was, the cost was a big factor in those first couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exciting. It's so cool. And to have done this all these years as our medium has evolved, to still do this. What's kind of the biggest change? You mentioned, again, 85 teams back then. Obviously, there are more Division I teams now. Things have changed. What is the biggest change you've seen over these last 3 decades with college football?
Well, it's definitely what's happened the last 3 years with NIL and the transfer portal has been massive changes there. And, I used to be able to go to the press in the month of May because I would start talking to the coaches in March when some of their spring practices are over, and all through April and into May. And then we could put the magazine out then. And you knew the rosters. There was no second transfer portal window. But now with the second transfer portal window, I don't start talking to the coaches until May because it ended at the end of April. Now I'm trying to cram 136 head coaches, and the calls take like an hour apiece, all into the month of May. It actually spilled a little bit into June this year, and we put the magazine out the first week of June. But the good thing about the magazine, we came out 5 weeks after the transfer portal closed. So basically anybody that was going to sign, signed. We've got all the right guys on the right teams. There were magazines on the newsstand while the transfer portal was open, for crying out loud. I'm not sure how you quite do that.
How does that happen? And it's really inaccurate because there are some deals happening, especially this year we saw, and we heard about a couple of teams weren't happy with their quarterbacks coming out of spring ball and really were going after guys. I mean, there are a couple of situations where there are some top 25 teams that could have had, one, Tennessee did have a different quarterback coming out of the spring than when they started.
Yeah, they basically made a trade with UCLA. Right. They traded Nico Iamaleava to UCLA, and they got Joey Aguilar back. And it was they probably had to give a couple of draft picks along with that.
Right, exactly. So was that one of the strangest things that you saw in terms of Iamaleava going out to UCLA? They just signed the kid. UCLA did, and he read the writing on the wall. He jumps. That's of all the transfer portal things, that may be the strangest thing I think I've seen.
Yeah, it probably was. And something else I found interesting this year, Larry, was going through the rosters, the amount of kids that signed in the winter portal and left the team after the doggone spring portal. Now that's getting ridiculous. Yeah. Remember what it used to be? You had to sit out a year when you transferred. Now you don't even have to play for that team. You just come in and take your money in the winter and then leave after spring practice is over and go someplace else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're taking 12, maybe 15 hours, but yeah, you can't be making academic progress. And that's my concern too, as kids. Let's not lose the student part of student athletes who are doing all this. Do you think now with House being settled, we have some guidelines? Do you think that we'll see some of that movement slow down a bit? How do you think that changes things moving forward?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we go to one transfer portal window. I can tell you, talking to the head coaches, they want one transfer portal window. And if we get one transfer portal window, Phil Steele is a happy camper because I don't have to worry about this massive changes in the magazine all in the last month of it, trying to rewrite 136 teams in 1 month and talk to all these head coaches. It was really a very hectic month of May. So hopefully that comes to fruition. And, the one thing I think you're going to look at, Larry, and I put out a blog on philsteele.com about it this week, was homegrown players. And if you look at some of the teams that aren't using portal heavily, that are bringing in freshmen, turn them into seniors, even the last 2 national champs, Ohio State, Michigan, yes, they use the portal, but Ohio State had like 7-8 portal guys. The majority of the team was homegrown. Same thing, Clemson won the ACC. Iowa State was in the Big 12 title game. Those are teams that did not focus on the portal. Heck, Army and Navy had massive years last year, and they had the team atmosphere. They didn't have the portal going on. So I think we're going to see teams, and in fact, when I talked to Coach Ferentz of Iowa, he told me that, I think we're going to start trending more towards just bringing in freshmen and not rely on the portal as much.
There are some teams that, and I think to your point, we've seen a lot of this movement, but it's now a thing where it's the dollars, the numbers we're hearing, it's not sustainable long term, right? I don't care. how deep a pocket your boosters have. At some point, I know there was the talk that this year we could have the first, $40 million payroll or something. There was that number was out there. That seems exaggerated, but let's say that even if it's half that, that's insane. It can't be sustained. And so you feel like at some point you're going to have to be able to retain and grow those players and keep them in-house. And I think that, and I use one example is Illinois as a team I know everybody's high on. Brett Bielema has done a nice job. You don't see just a bunch of guys leaving or some of the shenanigans of coming in for a semester leaving. It's this culture he's built there, and guys who are there, they're bought into the program and for the most part want to stick around. I think programs like that, Ohio State, Michigan, and others have a chance to be successful because they will be able to retain those players.
Yeah, and retention to me is the key. And you get the team atmosphere. I think you have the best cohesion of the team. And like you mentioned, Illinois this year, wow, they are number 3 on my experience chart with everything they're bringing back from last season. I think this year's Illinois team is probably about a touchdown better than last year's Illinois team, which went 10-3. You're talking about a legitimate playoff contender. And part of the process is they're not completely turning over their roster. Look at Florida State. Florida State brought in a ton of transfers in 22-23, hit a lot of home runs. But then last year, they didn't hit the home runs in the portal, and they started out slow. And what happened was they didn't have that team atmosphere, that cohesion, and they sort of fell apart all the way down to 2-10. Maybe those players are starting to say, hey, where do I go next? They were all mercenaries brought in. And I think the team atmosphere is huge, and keeping your players is big.
Yeah. And I think, and that's the thing, Mike Norvell didn't become a bad coach overnight. Right.
No. I mean, and he'll be good this year. I think they are my number 1 most improved team. They're going to get off to a better start. They'll stay together more, but I think that's the danger when you have a lot of portal guys out there.
Yeah. Talking with Phil Steele, philsteele.com, as he's mentioned, is the website. Phil Steele Magazine in his 31st year, one of the great publications, and we're thrilled to have him and get some of his insights here in the show. You mentioned Florida State. What's another maybe a surprise team or a team we're really looking forward to doing some things here in 2025?
One that's a real surprise is Oklahoma. They are my number 1 surprise team in the country, and they were just 6-7 last year. There was nothing wrong with the defense last year. They held opponents to 87 yards per game below their average. Number 6 in the country. They got 8 starters back. They have one of the best defenses in the country. Offense was the problem. They had 0 returning starters on the offensive line. And they lost their top 5 receivers at one point due to injury. Well, this year, they get the injured players back, like Deion Burks, an NFL prospect. They also add to the receiving core. The offensive line is now a veteran unit. They bring in Jade Knott, who was the top running back in the Pac-12 2 years ago, as the running back this year. He was banged up last year. And they bring in John Mateer, quarterback, along with his offense coordinator from Washington State, and Ben Arbuckle. So they now have an offense to go with the defense. Last year, they only had 3 SEC home games. This year, they only have 3 true SEC road games. Schedule's difficult, but I think you might see Oklahoma go from 6-7 to maybe being that 4th SEC playoff team this year.
Wow. Okay. The SEC right now and the Big Ten, obviously we're getting a lot of talk about those 2 conferences and rightly so. The Big Ten finally solved the SEC and went in the last 2 national championships, Michigan 2 years ago. And of course, Ohio State is the defending champ. Do you see the SEC coming back this year, or what will it take, I guess, to get a Georgia or Alabama or a Florida in that final spot in the college football championship game?
Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, they beat each other up during the course of the season. You look at like the 10th place team in the SEC. I got South Carolina, and South Carolina's a team that just missed the playoff last year. I do think a team like Alabama, which is loaded, almost every single unit ranks in my top 10, with the exception of quarterback. But I think Ty Simpson may be a better fit than Jalen Milroe. Texas, loaded with talent. In fact, every unit's in my top units, and the weakest one is offensive line at 26. Every other unit's in my top 10. And then Georgia. Everybody's sleeping on Georgia this year. Last year, Georgia came in preseason number 1, and their 3 toughest opponents were Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. They had to play all 3 of them on the road, and they ended up losing 2 of them, playing on the road stuff. This year, their toughest 3 opponents are Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. They get them all at home. They haven't lost a home game between the hedges the entire decade. Last time they lost was 2019. Watch out for Georgia as well. I do think the SEC's up there, but I did pick a Big Ten team to actually win it all this year.
And I'm not going to ask you who that is because we want people to go to the website and buy your magazine. We're not going to give that away. But speaking of the Big Ten, we discussed SEC, and I'm glad you said that about Georgia. That you're right, that nobody's talking about them. And again, they're not a team that did poorly. They made the playoff, just didn't win in the playoff. So, but the Big Ten, like you said, you've got Penn State there, Ohio State. We just today the story just comes out. Michigan is avoiding a postseason ban, but a pretty big fine, lost of 2 years of postseason football revenues. The report right now. This all going back to the sign stealing stuff back in the day. But Big Ten, who do you like in the Big Ten right now?
Well, I think you got three main teams at the very top that are going to contend for that top spot, and that is naturally Ohio State. You got Penn State, and you got Oregon. Mm-hmm. And then, to me, it comes down to who's going to grab that fourth playoff spot. And battling for that fourth playoff spot, I think, are probably five teams. Mm-hmm. You've got Michigan, which you talked about. You got Illinois, naturally. Indiana, which was in the playoff last year. USC, a sneaky team up there because, at one point last year, they were 6-5, but they could have been 11-0. They had like five really close losses during the year. Penn State, they led the entire game, ended up losing in overtime. Michigan, they gave up a 4th and goal at the end of the game and lost. Maryland, they were kicking a field goal, go up by 9, and it got blocked, returned to midfield. Maryland scored a touchdown, beat them by 1. I could go on, but they were much better than the record. And then Nebraska, it's Matt Rule's 3rd year at Nebraska, his 3rd year at other schools. He's had 10 wins. And this year, they don't play Oregon. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Illinois. And they don't play Indiana. So that's 4 of the big teams of the Big Ten that they avoid. Watch out for Nebraska. I think Dylan Raiola is going to have a much better year his second year as a starter.
Watched his younger brother play for Buford High School out of Georgia last night on ESPN, taking on Milton. I'm like, wait, there's another Raiola? Oh, yeah, he's going to go to Nebraska as well. We want to get in the Big 12. We've not touched on them yet. And, every year, they're, even with expansion, still one of the most competitive conferences. The 4 teams there at the top last year. And it feels like, again, it's just hard to pick out, at least for me, you may feel differently, hard to pick just one team it's so far above the rest because it is such a competitive league.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. In fact, I could name 7 teams that I think have a shot at winning the Big 12 this year. And what it came down to me was I took those 7 teams and I said, who plays who where? And I took the ones that play the biggest games at home, like Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State. They have their toughest games at home. Meanwhile, a team like Arizona State that won the Big 12 last year, they have to go at Baylor. They have to go at Utah. They have to go at Iowa State. And it's tough to win on the road, as like with Georgia last year. Georgia was the number 1 team in the country. They had 3 really tough road games and lost 2 of them. Also, Texas Tech, the best team money can buy in the Big 12 this year. They have to play at Utah, at Arizona State, at Kansas State. They also play a sneaky Houston team on the road. But the 7 teams are Baylor, Utah, Iowa State, Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and TCU. I think any of the 7 could win the Big 12. I do think the Big 12 only gets 1 playoff spot because they're going to beat each other up. Nobody's going to come out of there with probably fewer than 2 or 3 losses. And I think it's going to be a fun league to watch. But yeah, you're right. There is no dominant team in the Big 12 like there used to be when Oklahoma and Texas were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question about that. I do want to get your thoughts quickly before I let you go on the ACC. Came through last year big with Clemson, Miami, and SMU. It feels like this is still Clemson's league to lose.
Yeah, I'm fired up about Clemson this year, Larry. They've got, first of all, Cade Klubnik at QB, who had a 19-9 ratio 2 years ago because his receiving core was banged up. He got those injured receivers back last year, and all of a sudden, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's got my number 2 set of receivers to throw to, number 2 offensive line in front of him. They add in Gideon Davidson, my number 3 true freshman running back, to go along with Adam Randall, the converted wide receiver. They have the most explosive offense in the country. And last year, they gave up 374 yards per game on defense, which is ridiculous for the amount of talent they have. They're loaded with NFL guys across the board, and they bring in Tom Allen from Penn State as the defensive coordinator. I think he's going to get this defense playing to the level you expect. I have Clemson favored in all 12 games this year. I've got Cade Klubnik winning the Heisman. I think Clemson has a shot at contending for the national title.
Yeah. And I think that this is, you mentioned Tom Allen coming in. People don't realize that from those heyday Clemson teams we saw a few years ago with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and then Trevor Lawrence winning a national title as a true freshman. Dabo lost his coordinators from that, and that means something. You can't just lose guys like that, your top lieutenants, and expect to continue. Despite that, they only missed double-digit wins once. In the last dozen years, and they went 9-4. So it's not like they were terrible. They just weren't elite for a couple seasons, but it feels like this year they're back.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And going back to my homegrown article, Dabo got a lot of heat for not hitting the portal. Oh, everybody's using the portal. I think what we're going to see is that these teams that aren't heavy in the portal do well. And, his defense coordinator, Brent Venables, happens to be the head coach for my number one surprise team, Oklahoma, this year.
Yeah, coming through big in that. Phil, we know you're a busy man. We so appreciate your time. Enjoy the weekend, and hopefully get a chance to talk again soon.
Hey, Larry, always enjoy our conversations, buddy. Good catching up with you again. Thanks for having me on.
Same here. Absolutely. And go Buckeyes there for your family. So, appreciate that. Phil Steele, once again, check it out, philsteele.com. And again, publisher, writer of Phil Steele magazine, Phil Steele Publications, the magazine. 31st year they've done that now. And he is one of the great experts in this field. And we are thrilled to have him here on the Sports IQ. Okay, we'll continue with the preseason producer Tony's preseason top 25 and our moment of awe, a little bit like what we had earlier this week. We'll explain that coming up next. Welcome back. Great to talk with Phil here on the show. Okay, producer Tony, he's got his top 25, and we're counting them down, getting up to number one. I feel like Casey Kasem, America's top 20 right now. Coming in, number 16. Tony, who you got right now? Out of the SEC, who you got?
We are going back to the SEC, Larry, and number 16 is the Ole Miss Rebels. And, Lane Kiffin has shown one thing. His teams are always going to be really good offensively, and they are always going to be a thorn in the side of the upper echelon of the SEC. Last year they beat Georgia. No easy feat to do. Yeah, it was a home game, but they still controlled Georgia in that game and beat them pretty well. The question I have with them going in is they've got to replace two-year starter Jackson Dart. And he was all world last year at Mississippi. Austin Simmons is expected to be the starter. He's a little different for Kiffin. He's not a portal guy. Kiffin's been known to hit the portal really hard, especially for quarterbacks. Well, Simmons is a recruit. He's not a transfer. He has some experience. He tossed 32 passes last year, but he really is a raw quarterback. They're going to have to see, what they have with him, and they'll have to figure it out early. The nice thing is, Larry, the schedule works out really well for Ole Miss. Their non-conference schedule is really abysmal. It's just a joke. That's 4 wins, easy, just chalk them up. They don't have Alabama, they don't have Tennessee, and they don't have Texas this year. Yeah, They got to go to Georgia. Probably put that one in the loss column because the Bulldogs are going to be out for revenge after last season. But their other games are all technically winnable, So, this is a team that if they can find a way to handle business inside the red zone offensively, if they can keep that pace up, they're going to be fast, they're going to be wide open, but it bogs down when you get close to the end zone because the defense has shorter field to protect. In the 3 games they lost last year, Larry, they lost by a total of 13 points. In those 3 losses, they were just 5 of 14 in the red zone. Imagine if they'd have been 10 of 14. In the red zone, you'd have been talking about Ole Miss easily in the playoff picture at that point. They would have walked into a playoff spot.
And to your point, it's a schedule looking at this. Obviously, you're in the SEC, you're going to play a lot of ranked teams no matter where you are. They've got, number 9, LSU is at home. They're at number 5, Georgia, like I said, at 18, Oklahoma, going by the AP rankings. They host a 13th ranked South Carolina team that, they've got Florida at home as well, number 15. But this is a game. Those are winnable games. You kind of figure right now that South Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma, I'd say even LSU is beatable. Like you said, the one probably automatic loss probably is Georgia, but otherwise, you're exactly right. So Okay, Ole Miss.
You're looking at toss-ups. A lot of these games are just toss-ups. Can the ball bounce their way?
Yeah.
Can they make enough plays in the red zone to make things happen and make it work? And then see where things, net out when the playoff committee meets.
Yeah.
And if they do, they'll have enough quality wins in that SEC to make the decision tough. If they can go, look, let's say they only lose to Georgia. 11-1 Mississippi, are they in the playoff? Absolutely. They're probably playing in the SEC championship game if they go on. If all of those bounces go their way, they're in the SEC championship game and they're in the playoff. Now, if those toss-up games go the other way, if Austin Simmons isn't ready, if that defense, which has to retool, and by the way, that defense has brought in 4 transfers on the back end. Their entire starting back 4 is going to be transfers. That's going to be interesting to see how quickly they gel. So you're looking at 2 spots to gel, the defensive backfield and quarterback. How fast they make that gel and how quickly they work together. And if they are up to par, up to SEC par, which is a tough golf course to play, we all know that, that's going to determine Ole Miss's season.
So the Rebels at number 16. How about at number 15?
Number 15, let's hold that for Monday.
Okay.
We're going to get back on schedule. We're going to hold 15 for Monday.
Sounds good.
Back to that little tease for you folks out there. You're going to have to wait once we get into the top 15.
Love that. All right, there we go. Producer Tony, counting down the top 25 here this season. Okay, our moment of all is up next.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Well, before we get to our moment of awe, a couple of stories we do want to clean up earlier, talking with Phil Steele. Came down earlier today that the NCAA's Committee on Infraction has ruled on Michigan's that case, the advanced scouting case, or the sign stealing case that we've talked about. The big thing here is that they did avoid a postseason ban, but otherwise there's some pretty significant penalties here. Again, all this according to ESPN's reporting. 2 years of postseason football revenue lost. That's about $20 million a year, maybe even more than that. I remember Michigan, part of the Big Ten, and they've got all that TV money coming in. A lot of postseason money coming in as well with that. Head coach Sharon Moore already was going to serve a 2-game suspension in the upcoming season. That was a self-imposed thing by the school. They're going to add an additional game, so Moore will sit out for 3 games in the 2025 season. They've also leveled an 8-year show cause penalty for Connor Stallions. He was the assistant who was at the center of all of this. And a 10-year show cause penalty for former coach Jim Harbaugh. He's now with the NFL's LA Chargers, and at his age will probably never attempt to coach in college again, the money that he's receiving. So again, what that show cause is, you have to show cause for why you should be able to hire this person, but they'll be out of college football for quite a while. So, but again, big thing to watch is financially in terms of just how much money that means. That is just a huge. By the way, Michigan and its coaches also charged with 6 level 1 violations in the case. Those are the most serious violations. But again, so that came down. We'll see again what some of the fallout is here with Michigan football. One other story also want to get to you before we get to the MOA, as we call it, the moment of all. Great story in front office sports. We mentioned earlier, joked about Jerry Jones and all the things down in Dallas. Well, Arlington, Texas, a city that is the home to AT&T Stadium, just made its final payment on its part of the deal that it spent on that stadium 10 years early. And so that saves more than $100 million in interest and fees to the taxpayers there. They will now set sights on taking care of the baseball stadium there next door for the Rangers. They're on pace to pay that off early as well, like in 2034, I believe, again, like 14, 15 years early. So great stewards, public stewards of money. They're down there in the Dallas area. We love to hear that. Okay, let's get to our moment of awe. We mentioned yesterday Venus Williams at age 45 will get a chance to play in the U.S. Open, again at her age, which is outstanding. She gets an exemption starting here next week, here later on this month. Venus also has now a Barbie doll in her image. What an outstanding Hall of Fame career. 7 Grand Slam singles titles, 14 Grand Slam doubles championships, 4 Olympic gold medals in Venus's career at age 45. But she chose the 2007 Wimbledon outfit. The reason why, not because of what she did on the court there at the All England Lawn and Tennis Club, but because that was the first year that men's and women's purses were equal. She said that's the reason why she chose that. So Venus Williams, what a week for her at age 45. Invite to the U.S. Open and now a Barbie doll as well. Very cool. Moment of all. Hey, thanks so much to our friend Phil Steele of philsteele.com, the Phil Steele magazine, stopping by and joining us, giving us his insights in college football. We appreciate you being here every day as well. Since we have started this project, it has been just a labor of love for us. Glad you're enjoying us. Keep the comments coming and enjoy the weekend. And we'll be right back here talking to you again on Monday. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.